The Proposal from the Stars. In the year 2137, Earth was no longer alone. After centuries of silence in the stars, humans finally made contact with a peaceful alien race, the Volari. They lived far away, in a system with twin suns, and their technology was far ahead of Earth's. But instead of war, they offered something else: peace, friendship, and marriage. To build strong trust between the two worlds, the Volari proposed something strange: an exchange of marriage partners. One human would marry one Volari, a bond that would unite the two worlds in the oldest way known to both species: love. Most people laughed at the idea. Some were afraid. Others called it madness. But not James Carter. James was a quiet man, a space engineer by profession. He had no family left. His parents had died during the Martian riots. His younger brother was lost in the lunar collapse. Alone, tired, and looking for purpose, he said yes, without even seeing the bride. People called him crazy. Even his co-workers tried to stop him. "You don't know what she looks like, James. She's not even human. What if she's dangerous? This is suicide." But James just smiled. "Looks don't matter. I want to believe in something again." And so, the wedding was arranged. It happened in a quiet ceremony at the United Nations Space Embassy. Only a few guests, a few silent aliens. Cameras were not allowed. No photos, no press, no distractions. And there she was, Lyra of Volari, his bride. She walked slowly, covered in a long silver cloak, her face hidden under a soft hood. She did not speak much. Her voice was calm, musical but strange. She looked smaller than James had imagined. Delicate, like something not made for Earth. They exchanged vows using both human and Volari words. James said the words honestly, even if he didn't fully understand them. Then they were declared husband and wife. That night, they entered their new home, a quiet house on the edge of New Alaska where snow covered everything like a blanket. The government provided it, a gift for their service to intergalactic peace. Inside, the house was warm. Lyra moved quietly, like a shadow. She placed her silver cloak on a chair and went into a room. Her room. James stood in the living room, unsure what to do. She returned holding a small glowing orb. She placed it on the table between them. It pulsed with a soft blue light. "This is a Volari bonding stone," she said. "It listens to our hearts. It glows stronger when we begin to trust." James sat down across from her. The light flickered gently. "Do you trust me?" he asked. She looked at him, but her eyes were still hidden by the shadows of her hood. "Not yet, but I will try." Days passed. They lived under the same roof, but remained strangers. Lyra stayed quiet. She followed a routine, cooked food from her planet, played soft music from a small crystal device. Every night she went to her room and locked the door. James never asked questions, but curiosity grew inside him like a slow fire. Why had she agreed to marry a human? Why did she hide her face, and most of all, what was she hiding behind that door? One night, James woke up to a strange sound. A soft humming, like a song made of light. It came from her room. He walked slowly toward the door. He didn't knock. He didn't speak. He just stood there, listening. The sound stopped. Suddenly, the door opened, just a little. No one was there. Just a glowing blue light inside, and something moving in the shadows. James stepped back. Lyra appeared in the doorway, now wearing a different cloak. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, they were not human eyes. They shimmered like stars, and held a sadness older than Earth itself. "You should not be here," she whispered. James apologized and turned away. But before he left, he asked, "Lyra, why me? Why did you choose to marry a human?" She didn't answer. Just one sentence. Because I needed someone who had already lost everything. Then she closed the door. James stood alone in the hallway, confused and a little afraid, but something inside him whispered, this was just the beginning. He had married an alien without ever seeing her face. But he was starting to understand. The mystery wasn't just about who she was. It was about why she had come, and what she had brought with her. The first night, shadows and secrets. James could not sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Lyra's words. Because I needed someone who had already lost everything. Those words kept repeating in his mind like an old song stuck on loop. The soft hum from her room still echoed faintly in his ears. A melody that sounded more like a signal, or a memory. Outside, snow kept falling quietly over the dark hills of New Alaska. The wind howled like a whispering ghost, but inside the house everything was still. Too still. James got up and poured himself a glass of water. He walked slowly past Lyra's room. The door was shut again. A soft glow still leaked out from beneath, it like moonlight trapped behind a curtain. Then something moved. A shadow passed behind the door, but not like a human shadow, too tall, too fluid, like a creature without bones. James froze. His heartbeat quickened. He tried to convince himself it was just Lyra, maybe wearing some alien dress. Maybe her form looked different in her natural light. Maybe. He shook his head and walked back to his room. The next morning, Lyra was in the kitchen. She wore a plain gray robe with a high collar that covered her neck completely. Her hood was still up, hiding most of her face. Only her soft blue lips could be seen. She was cooking something. Not food exactly. A mix of glowing leaves and steam that smelled like mint and lightning. Good morning, James said, trying to sound normal. Lyra turned slightly, nodding. Did you sleep well? Not really, he replied. Strange dreams. That's normal, she said calmly. The house is old. It remembers things. James frowned. Remembers what? She didn't answer. She simply placed a bowl of glowing soup in front of him and sat across the table. They ate in silence. The bonding stone on the shelf blinked softly, but not with warmth. It looked confused. Later that day, James went out to clear snow from the path. A government drone passed overhead and paused. A red light scanned his face, then moved on. But something wasn't right. Another figure stood across the street, a man in a black coat with no name tag. He wore dark glasses and held a small device in his hand. He walked slowly toward James. Mr. Carter? Yes? I'm with Earth Security Division, just a friendly checkup. James hesitated. The man's voice was too calm, like someone hiding a weapon behind his words. Is everything all right at home? The agent asked. Yes. Why? The man smiled without warmth. Just making sure. You know some of these interspecies marriages and they don't always go as planned. James folded his arms. We're doing fine. The man stepped closer. If you ever notice anything unusual, you should report it immediately. He handed James a small silver cube. Push the top twice, we'll hear you. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the snow. James looked at the cube. It was warm in his palm. Watching. Him. Listening, maybe. He slipped it into his coat pocket. That night, the house felt different. Cold in places it shouldn't be. Walls made soft cracking sounds, like they were stretching. The lights flickered once, just for a second. James walked past the hallway and saw Lyra standing in front of the bonding stone. She was whispering to it. The stone pulsed in response. He couldn't understand the language, and it was musical, layered, like multiple voices at once. She turned around slowly, noticing him. The stone is listening, she said softly. To what? To your soul, she replied. It senses your fear. I'm not afraid, James lied. You should be. That night he heard the sound again. The strange humming like a chant wrapped in electricity. But this time it wasn't coming from behind her door. It was coming from inside the walls. He got up, followed the sound. It moved. Like it was alive. Down the hallway, into the basement. He had never been there. The door was sealed with a silver lock. Alien technology. It glowed red as he touched it. Suddenly it clicked open. Darkness. The humming grew louder. He stepped down into the basement with only a small light in his hand. The walls were covered with thin blue vines, or wires. They pulsed softly. In the middle of the room was a pod, half open, empty. Next to it was a hologram flickering with Valari symbols. A message began to play, in Lyra's voice. If you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to find this yet. James stepped back. The pod looked organic, like something alive. I'm not just here as a bride, the message continued. I am hiding, and soon they will find me. The recording ended. James turned, and Lyra was standing in the doorway silently. Her hood was down. Her eyes glowed softly in the dark. Her face was not human, but not terrifying. Just different. Beautiful in a strange, unfamiliar way. Her skin shifted in color like deep ocean water. Why are you hiding? He asked. Because I'm not just a Valari. She stepped into the light. I'm a traitor to my people, and Earth may be the last place they won't look. James stared at her. Why did you marry me? Because I needed someone no one would suspect. A man with no attachments, no past. Someone brave enough to look at me and not run. Upstairs, the bonding stone pulsed violently now and then cracked. Outside in the snowy hills, a red dot blinked in the distance. Something was coming, and it wasn't human. The mask and the moonlight. For the next few days, James didn't speak much. He didn't know what to say. He had seen Lyra's true face, and the truth she was hiding, that she wasn't just a peaceful alien bride. She was a fugitive. Still, something inside him refused to feel fear. Not completely. He should have run, reported her, called the agency using the cube that still sat in his drawer. But he didn't. Because deep down, he knew something strange. He trusted her. The snowstorm outside grew stronger. The house became an island in a sea of white. Power lines crackled. Communications slowed. Even the satellites lost their signal now and then. But James and Lyra continued their quiet, strange routine. Mornings were silent. Lyra would cook or meditate near the bonding stone, which now blinked faintly as if injured. Afternoons, she would walk in the garden wearing a full-body cloak and mask. Nights were filled with whispers, echoes, and the soft humming that now filled James's dreams. He never entered the basement again, and she never invited him. One night, while watching Earth's two moons rise together, James sat near the window. Lyra stood beside him, her hood covering half her face. He finally asked, "What happens if they find you?" She paused for a long moment. "They won't just take me," she said. "They'll erase me, and everything I touched." "You mean, me too?" She didn't answer. Instead, she handed him a small, clear device. It looked like glass but shimmered like water. "What is this?" "A memory key," she replied. "If I disappear, use this. It will explain everything." "Lyra," he said softly, "why are you trusting me with this?" Her voice was almost a whisper. "Because you haven't run." The next day, James took Lyra to the nearby market village, the only place where humans and off-worlders mixed freely. Lyra wore a long blue cloak and a thin silver mask that covered her face. Her posture was calm, regal almost. But James noticed her hands trembled slightly beneath her sleeves, Everyone stared, some in curiosity, others in fear. A human child pointed at her and laughed. "Look, an alien ghost." James stepped in front of Lyra and said gently, "She's my wife." The child blinked. "She doesn't look like your wife." James smiled. "That's because she's better." The child ran away, confused. Lyra turned her head. James saw her lips curve slightly under the mask, a tiny, almost invisible smile. In a quiet corner of the market, James noticed a strange figure watching them, tall, motionless, with red eyes glowing faintly behind dark glasses. Not human. Not Valari either. He turned to Lyra. "We're being watched." Her eyes locked on the figure. Then she whispered, "It's too soon." She grabbed his arm. "We need to go." They returned home quickly. The skies were darker than usual. The snow had stopped falling, but something heavier hung in the west air. That night, James couldn't sleep again. At 2 a.m., he walked out to the kitchen and found Lyra standing outside in the moonlight. Bareheaded. This was the first time he had seen her fully without her cloak, her mask, or her shadows. And she wasn't hiding anymore. Her skin shimmered like pearls underwater. Her face was both beautiful and strange, symmetrical but subtly shifting in color. Her eyes were like twin galaxies, endless and soft. James didn't speak. He just stood there watching. She turned and looked at him. "You should be sleeping. So should you. I don't sleep easily on this planet. It's too quiet. No star song." Star song? A vibration. Valari worlds hum with energy. Earth feels lonely. James stepped beside her. "You're not alone anymore." They stood together under the moonlight. Then she said, "I want to show you something." She led him back inside, not to the basement, but to her room. The door opened for the first time. Inside, the walls were covered in glowing symbols, not painted, but grown, like living vines of language. There were floating stones, softly spinning. In the air, one hovered near James and pulsed warmly. "It likes you," she said. "What is this place?" "My memories. Everything I left behind. My planet, my people, my name." "Your name isn't Lyra," she smiled faintly. "Lyra is the name I chose, for this life." James felt a pull toward one of the spinning stones. He touched it. In a blink, visions flooded his mind. Alien cities, glowing rivers, a sky full of 6 moons. Then, war. Fire. Betrayal. A woman standing alone while her family was torn away. He gasped and pulled his hand back. "You were a warrior." "I was more," she said quietly. "I was a princess. And I ran. Because I didn't believe in the war they started." "And they want to kill you because of that?" She looked away. "Because I know the truth. And the truth is, their peace talks with Earth are a lie." James felt the ground shift beneath him. "You mean, they're planning something?" She nodded slowly. "An invasion. Not soon. Not loud. But slow. Quiet. Political. Marriages, tech deals, control from the inside. And you're the only one who knows? I'm the only one who escaped." Suddenly, the house shook. Not like wind. Not like storm. Something had landed. A deep mechanical hum filled the air. Not from Earth. James ran to the window. Outside, barely visible through the mist and moonlight, a Valari stealth ship hovered, silently above the trees. The red-eyed figure from the market now stood near the house, raising a glowing device. Lyra's voice turned sharp. "They found me." James looked at her. "What do we do?" She stepped forward, eyes glowing bright. "We run, now." But before they could move, the walls flickered. A strange energy barrier activated around the house, not something James had installed. Lyra said, "They're jamming everything. You won't be able to call for help." James pulled out the cube the agent had given him. What about this? Too late, they're already here. She placed a hand on his chest. James, I need you to trust me one more time. Always. She moved quickly, activating the floating stones. They formed a glowing shield around them. Outside, footsteps crunched in the snow. The enemy had arrived, but James didn't run. He looked at the woman he married. Alien, strange, dangerous, and yet the only person who had ever made him feel whole. And he made his choice. He would fight beside her, no matter what came through that door next. Truth beneath the skin. The walls were vibrating. A low, steady hum filled the air, not like sound, but like pressure, crawling through the bones. Outside, the red-eyed figure raised his hand, and a glowing symbol appeared in the sky above the house. The barrier surrounding the house shimmered like water. Lyra had activated some kind of alien shield. It was holding, for now. James stood beside her, breathing heavily. How long until it breaks? Minutes, maybe less. What do they want? Lyra didn't blink. Me. Alive if possible, dead if necessary. Then we don't let them in. She led James to the basement again. This time, the pod in the center was no longer empty. A shimmering battlesuit, clearly not human, hovered inside the pod. A second skin of energy and metal. Lyra touched the edge of the chamber. I didn't want you to see this. The armor unwrapped like a flower made of light. Her body shifted as she stepped toward it. Her limbs stretched slightly. Her back moved. Wings, not like birds, but made of pure energy, appeared for a moment, then faded again. James couldn't speak. Not out of fear, but awe. You're not just Valari, are you? Lyra looked at him, her voice flat. My mother was Valari. My father was something older. Something even the stars fear. You're part human? No, she said. But I'm part unwanted. She stepped into the suit. A surge of light wrapped around her. Her form became taller, sharper, armored. She looked like a queen from a forgotten myth. But her eyes were still soft. You don't have to fight, James said. If I don't, they'll burn this house down with you inside it. The shield began to crack. Outside, 3 more figures appeared from the mist. All of them tall, masked, and armed with strange, glowing weapons. The red-eyed leader spoke in a language James didn't understand, but the tone was clear. It was a warning. Lyra didn't wait. She stepped through the front door, and the shield shattered behind her like glass. The sky turned a sick shade of purple. James watched from the window as light and fire danced across the snowy field. Lyra moved like liquid metal, dodging, striking, vanishing, and reappearing mid-air. Her wings flashed open as she smashed into one of the attackers. The ground shook, trees fell, the snow burned, but there were too many. She was holding them off, but barely. James couldn't take it anymore. He rushed to the drawer and pulled out the silver cube the Earth agent gave him. He pressed it twice. Nothing. No sound. No light. No help. They had jammed it completely. Useless. Then something hit the house. A blast wave shattered the living room window. Smoke poured in. James fell back, coughing. That's when he saw it. In the hallway, near the bonding stone, a small Valari drone, round, floating, and watching. It blinked once and spoke. James Carter, confirm identity. He stared at it. What? Confirm identity. Confirm emotional link with subject Lyra. James swallowed hard. Yes, I'm her husband. The drone pulsed. Emotional link. Confirmed. Activating human bond defense protocol. Suddenly, the bonding stone exploded in light. Everything around him changed. The walls disappeared. Or maybe James moved. Instantly, to a different space. A chamber full of stars. Lyra stood there, injured, floating, held up by invisible forces, and in front of her was a holographic figure, taller than anything James had seen, glowing, crowned with fire. You are not Valari, it said. You are not one of us. He is mine, Lyra whispered. Bound by choice, the figure turned to James. You were not chosen by your world. Why do you fight for hers? James stepped forward, confused but determined. Because she's the only one who didn't lie to me. She showed me who she is. No one on Earth ever did that. The figure leaned closer. Then prove your worth. A blinding flash. And James found himself standing outside again. But now he was wearing something armor, not like Lyra's, but shaped for a human. Light, flexible, and warm. His body felt stronger, his vision sharper. The snow no longer felt cold. His fear was gone. Lyra looked at him, shocked. James, that armor responds only to bonded Valari hearts. Well, he smiled, maybe yours liked mine. Together they faced the remaining attackers. What followed was chaos. James fought with instinct, the armor guiding his movements. He dodged lasers, blocked plasma blasts, and even knocked one attacker into the trees with a pulse strike. Lyra flew, above him covering his back. They were two but moved like one. When it was over, the attackers lay in the snow unconscious or dead. The red-eyed leader crawled back toward the ship, bleeding green light. Lyra stood above him. Tell the High Circle, she said coldly, that I am not hiding anymore. Then she crushed his communicator beneath her boot. The ship vanished. Silence. Returned only snow, and two hearts pounding in sync. Later, inside the house, Lyra patched James's bruises. I didn't know the armor would choose you. Me neither. But I guess the stone liked my soul. Lyra laughed softly, the first real laugh he'd heard from her. Then she said, they'll come again, stronger next time. Then, we run? No, we go to them first. James looked confused. What do you mean? I still have one secret left, she said, and it's not on Earth. She opened a small panel on her bracelet. A holographic star map appeared. One planet glowed red. There's a rebel ship buried beneath the Pacific Ocean. It was hidden there before I arrived. A ship? Big, enough for two. So what now? James asked. She reached out and touched his hand. Now, we leave Earth. But before they could move, the silver cube on the table lit up, suddenly active again. A voice came through. The Earth Security. Agent. James Carter, this is Agent Monroe. We've been tracking your location. Do not leave that house. James stepped closer. You told me to report if anything felt strange. Everything has. You're in danger, the agent replied. And so are we. From her? No, the agent said slowly. From what's coming after her. The signal cut. Lyra's face turned pale. They know. Know what? She looked him in the eyes. That I'm not just a fugitive. Then what are you? A long pause. I'm a key, James. A living key. The only one that can open the prison where my father is held. James froze. And who's your father? She looked out the window, at the stars. The one your universe calls the Endbringer. The war brides passed. The fire inside the house had gone out, not the real fire that still burned in the hearth, but something deeper. A silence had fallen between James and Lyra after her last words. My father is the one your universe calls the Endbringer. James sat on the floor, still in his alien armor, staring at her. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions but couldn't form even one. Lyra stood by the window, her cloak pulled tight, her face half lit by moonlight. She looked like a statue made of stardust. Beautiful, sad, and dangerous. Finally, James spoke. Tell me everything. She didn't move. For a long moment, it seemed she wouldn't answer. Then she whispered, Are you sure you want to know? He stood, walked toward her. I married you without seeing your face. I fought beside you without knowing who you really were, and I haven't run yet." A pause, then she nodded slowly. "Then listen carefully, because once I speak this truth, there's no going back." She walked to the bonding stone, now cracked, and touched it gently. Suddenly the room shifted. Not physically, but emotionally, like they had stepped into a memory. The air grew heavy. The lights dimmed. Shadows moved in places where no shadows should have been. "I was born in the central palace of Valari Prime," she began. "A planet built on silver, oceans and living towers. My mother was high priestess, my father, a prisoner hidden beneath the throne." James raised an eyebrow. "He was a prisoner and your mother loved him?" "She didn't love him," Lyra said flatly. "She freed him, out of curiosity, out of pride, maybe even pity. And he? He showed her the truth about the stars." The memory deepened. Images formed in the air, glowing like fireflies. A young girl with glowing eyes running through alien gardens. A tall, dark shape watching from the shadows. "My father was not from Valari, not from any known system. The council called him an anomaly. The ancient texts called him Zatel Varan, the Endbringer, the first exile, the silent one." James shivered at the name. It echoed inside his head like a whisper in a cave. What was he? Lyra turned to face him. "He was born before time, or outside of it. He is uncontained energy, formless thought, but he learned to wear shapes, like skin." James felt his throat dry up. "And you're his daughter?" Lyra nodded. "Half. The other half is everything he hates." She touched another memory crystal. It projected a battlefield. "When I was a child, I heard him calling me. Through dreams, through stars. He said I was his key, that I would break the seals that bind him." The scene showed Lyra, older, now, standing in front of a massive gate covered in symbols. Behind it, a dark presence moved. "The Valari Council found out. They tried to use me, tried to force me to unlock the gate, then to destroy it. What did you do?" I refused to be anyone's weapon." She paused. "I stole a royal seed ship, landed on Earth, took a name, and waited." James stepped back, trying to process it all. "So the whole marriage, the peace treaty, was it just a cover?" She looked hurt. "No. That was real. That was my way of disappearing. You were the only variable I didn't control." "Then why me?" She walked toward him. "Because you were broken. Like me." "Gee, thanks." "No, I mean it." She touched his chest lightly. "Everyone else on Earth was chasing power, money, fame, but you just wanted to matter again. You didn't care who I was. You said yes before even seeing my face." James exhaled slowly. "I guess I'm consistent." But then, she said, something that chilled him. "And now, they know where I am, which means they'll try to wake him. Your father?" She nodded. Her eyes dimmed. "He's sealed beneath the dark side of Saturn's third moon. The council buried him there. But now that I'm exposed, others will try to find him. Worshippers, traitors, even humans hungry for alien power. Then we stop them. It's not that simple." Suddenly, a new alert blared through the house. Lyra's bracelet lit up, flashing red. "They've activated a signal. Someone just hacked the old Valari beacon on Earth." She turned to James. "They're calling him." James ran to the window. In the sky, a swirling black cloud was forming. Not natural. The stars themselves were bending, as if something massive was moving in space. Something waking up. Lyra pulled him toward the basement. "We need to leave. Now." "To where?" "To the Pacific. The rebel ship. We can reach orbit from there. We have to beat them to Saturn." "And then?" She looked him dead in the eye. "Then, I kill my father." They packed fast. The drone ship from the buried pod was activated. The moment they stepped outside, the wind screamed. Snow was lifting upward, not falling, as if gravity was unsure of itself. Reality was thinning. Lyra stopped and turned to look at Earth's sky one last time. "I wanted to live here," she whispered. "For once. Just live." James took her hand. "Then let's save the place that gave us a chance." Inside the ship, the controls responded to Lyra's touch. The cockpit lit up. Alien symbols danced across the glass. James sat beside her. He looked nervous. "This thing flies, right?" Lyra smirked. "It was built to escape entire starfleets." "Comforting." "Don't worry," she added. "It only crashes once." James blinked. "What?" But before he could ask, the ship launched, straight through the Earth's crust using a dimensional tunnel hidden deep beneath the ocean floor. As they broke through the clouds, heading into orbit, James looked down at the shrinking planet. "Lyra?" "Yes?" "If your father wakes up, and you can't stop him," she turned, "then you must." "Me? You're not just anything anymore." She placed the memory key, the glowing crystal, in his hand. "This holds every secret, every command. If I fall, you become the gatekeeper." James held it tightly. "I won't let you fall." Lyra looked at him, and for the first time since they met, she said 3 words he didn't expect from an alien fugitive. The daughter of a cosmic terror. "I love you," and then the stars blinked. Something had awoken. Love in the line of fire space was not silent anymore. As Lyra's stolen ship approached Saturn's orbit, alarms began to flash across the console. Strange signals, energy spikes, and gravitational fluctuations filled the data stream. Something massive was stirring beneath the gas giant's icy rings. James looked out the cockpit window. Saturn, usually golden and calm, now pulsed with faint black veins, like cracks forming across reality itself. "It's waking up," Lyra said softly. "Your father?" "His prison," she replied. "The seals are breaking." "Then we stop it, before it breaks all the way." Lyra nodded, but her eyes didn't leave the planet. The ship plunged into Saturn's shadow. They flew low, hiding from long-range sensors. Below them, a series of ancient alien structures floated in orbit, giant rings, broken towers, and monoliths too old to date. "This was built by the first architects," Lyra explained, "the ones who imprisoned him." "How do we stop something that powerful?" James asked. "We don't fight him directly," she said. "We reseal the gate, but it must be done from the inside." James frowned. "What does that mean?" Lyra didn't answer. She simply activated the landing sequence. As they landed on a black platform, orbiting close to the prison, James saw it. A massive gate made of light and stone spinning slowly. Chains of plasma wrapped around it like a cage, and behind it, darkness. Not just absence of light, but a presence that seemed to look back. "That's where he is?" James whispered. "No," Lyra said. "That's where he dreams." Before they could get closer, the ship's alert system blared. Something was coming, a fleet, but not Volari. Human ships. Lyra cursed under her breath. "Earth forces. They tracked us." James turned to her, confused. "Why would they follow us here? I thought they wanted to stop him too." "Not all of them," Lyra said darkly. "Some see him as a weapon, a way to control space, time, even death." "So they want to use your father?" "No one uses him," she replied. "They'll become part of him, just like the others." The ship's comms system crackled. A familiar voice came through. "This is Agent Monroe of Earth Security. Stand down, Lyra. Hand over the key and you won't be harmed." James grabbed the radio. "Monroe, are you crazy? That thing will destroy everything." Monroe's voice was cold. "You're too emotionally involved, Carter. The future belongs to those who control the unknown." Humanity has always tamed wild gods. This is no different. Lyra stepped forward. He's not a god, she said into the mic. He's a disease, and you just opened the door. Before they could respond, the human fleet began firing. Lyra grabbed James and activated a defensive shield, just as explosions rocked the platform. The gate began to pulse violently. Chains snapped one by one, and a low moaning sound echoed through space, and like something ancient yawning for the first time in millennia. "We have to move now," Lyra shouted. They ran across the crumbling platform toward a control tower, the only structure that could manually close the gate. As they entered, the inside felt wrong. The air shimmered like heat, even in zero gravity. Voices whispered from nowhere. Time seemed to bend. James saw shadows of himself moving ahead of him. "What is this place?" he asked. "The threshold," Lyra said. "A place between time. The closer we get to the gate, the more reality breaks." Inside the tower, a control pedestal floated in the center. It had 3 slots, shaped like keys. Lyra placed 2 crystals from her armor into the slots. One remained. She turned to James. "Your turn." James pulled the memory key from his chest pocket, the one Lyra gave him when this all began. As he moved toward the pedestal, a beam of red energy shot through the wall, striking him in the back. James fell. Lyra screamed. Agent Monroe stepped through the breach holding a plasma rifle. "We warned you," he said. "You gave us no choice." Lyra stood between James and Monroe. "You fool. He's the only one who can lock the gate now. Then I'll pry it from his corpse." Before Monroe could shoot again, the walls collapsed, and something stepped through. A being of pure shadow and starlight, tall, eyeless, limbs long and smooth like flowing ink. Its presence made time freeze. The chamber dimmed. The voices stopped. Even Monroe dropped his weapon and backed away. The being spoke, not in words but in thought. "You have called me. You have brought my blood. Now, I wake." Lyra stared at the creature. "Father." It tilted its head. "Child of mine, you wear your mother's shape and still you try to seal me away?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I love this universe. And he," she pointed at James, still crawling, "taught me how." The being moved toward her, raising a hand made of galaxies. "Then die with it." James, gasping and bleeding, looked up. He could barely move, but he saw the last key, still in his hand. Lyra turned to him, their eyes locked. "Use it," she whispered. "Now." "Not without you," he groaned. "There's no time." "I'm not leaving you behind." She smiled, tears glowing in her eyes. "I was born to end things. But you were born to begin again." She leaned down and kissed him, softly. Then she stood and charged into her father. The being roared. Reality bent. Time cracked, James screamed, and slammed the key into the final slot. Light exploded from the pedestal. The gate roared back to life. Chains of plasma reformed. The creature began to shrink, fold, collapse, screaming, resisting, breaking. Lyra held it down, glowing brighter than anything James had ever seen. "Go," she said, voice echoing through the chamber. "Live." Then, silence. The gate sealed. James woke up on the ship, alone, orbiting above Saturn. The tower was gone. Gate was locked, and Lyra was nowhere. Only the memory key remained in his hand, glowing softly. A single message floated in the air. "Don't look for me. Just remember me. And love the stars, as I loved you." Beyond the stars, no regrets. 1 year later. Earth had moved on. Saturn's strange storm had been blamed on a gravitational surge. Official reports labeled the Saturn Gate as an ancient alien remnant, No mention of a cosmic prison. No mention of Lyra, and definitely no mention of the Endbringer. James Carter became a quiet hero. Not publicly praised, not interviewed, just watched. Earth security kept him under light surveillance. He was a survivor, not a threat. Or so they said. He spent most days in silence, reading, walking by the sea, fixing old tech, and watching the stars at night. Always the stars. And every night before sleeping, he would hold the small memory crystal Lyra had left behind. Don't look for me, just remember me, and love the star as I loved you. But James never stopped looking. He searched deep space signals, hacked long-range scans, even tried to reactivate Lyra's stolen ship, which now sat buried in an abandoned Earth dockyard locked down by Earth authorities. Nothing. Until one evening, while stargazing from a quiet mountain observatory, the crystal in his hand glowed, bright, fierce, alive. Then it spoke, in her voice. James, I'm sorry I lied. He froze. I didn't die. I was taken. Static. Then, coordinates, a system beyond the mapped galaxy. A place called Astron 7. Within hours, James disappeared from Earth. He had spent a year preparing for this moment. Fake IDs, hidden funds, old contacts in off-world shipping. He even had a black market AI pilot waiting in orbit. He boarded a stolen jump freighter under a false name and set course for the uncharted stars. He left no note, because he had no regrets. Astron 7 wasn't a planet, it was a dead zone. It was a system of shattered moons, fractured suns, and ancient energy scars floating in deep space. A battlefield from long before Earth's first fire. The coordinates took him to a single moon-sized structure hidden in the debris, almost invisible. As the ship approached, it detected an energy barrier. Old, flickering, wounded. He spoke. Into the comms. Lyra, if you're there, I'm here. A pause. Then a whisper came through. I hoped you wouldn't come. And I hoped you'd still be alive. Silence. Then the barrier dropped. Inside the massive structure was a forgotten station. Not Valari, not human, but ancient. Its halls were filled with drifting dust and floating light. Machines moved without sound. Doors opened like thoughts, and, at the center of it all, surrounded by a living field of data, stood Lyra. She hadn't aged, but she looked different. Her armor was gone. Her body was wrapped in glowing threads of light. Her eyes were sharper, not cruel, but filled with knowledge beyond time. James stepped forward, stunned. Lyra, she smiled. You look exactly the same. You don't. I've changed. I had to. She explained everything. When she sealed the gate, she didn't die. The first architects, the ancient builders of the prison, had pulled her into a pocket dimension moments before the seal closed. They had judged her worthy, not just as a gatekeeper, but as a successor. They gave her a choice: die a hero on the battlefield forgotten, or live inside the ancient network guarding the stars forever. She chose to live. I watched Earth from here, she said. I watched you. James felt tears in his eyes. Then why not call me sooner? She looked away. Because I didn't want you to come. This isn't a place for the living. I thought letting you go would be the kindest thing. It wasn't, he said. It was hell. They stood in silence, and then she reached out, touched his hand. He felt it. Real, warm, alive. But you came, she whispered. Always. And I never stopped loving you. He smiled. So what now? Suddenly, alarms blared. Lyra's expression changed. They found us. Who? The last remnants of my father's cult, Valari defectors, rogue humans. They've been hunting this place, waiting for my signal to surface. James stepped back. So I led them here. No, she said. They would have come anyway. But now, We can finish it. Together. She raised her hand. The ancient station came alive. Ship systems, shields, weapons, and more began activating for the first time in 10,000 years. "What are you doing?" James asked. "Turning this place into what it was always meant to be." "Which is?" "A fortress. A sanctuary, a warning." The enemy fleet arrived within minutes. Dozens of ships, some Valari, some Earth-made, others unknown. They surrounded the station like vultures circling a dying star, and then they hailed her. "Lyra of Valari, daughter of the Endbringer. Hand over the source key or burn." James looked at her. "What's the source key?" "Me," she said. "I am the key now. My body, my mind, even my memories. That's what they want. Then they'll have to go through me first." She looked at him, really looked. And in that moment, the love between them, human and alien, flawed and faithful, became something stronger than fear. The battle began. James piloted one of the old architect fighters, controlled through thought. Lyra became a voice in his head, guiding him, her presence like a melody wrapped around every movement. Together, they moved like fire and shadow. Enemy. Ships fell one by one, but the enemy had one last weapon, a fusion bomb tied to a wormhole device. If detonated, it could crack the entire region of space. James heard the alert. "They're trying to collapse the station," he shouted. "If they destroy this place," Lyra whispered, "they'll open the gate again." "What do we do?" Lyra didn't speak for a moment. Then she said quietly, "You leave." "What?" "I'll seal it. From the inside." "No. No way. We just found each other again." "James, this is what I was born for," he shouted back. "And I was born to find you." Silence. Then Lyra sent him one last command, a locked flight path. "I'm sorry." The ship turned automatically, heading for escape. James fought it, screamed, but the AI refused to disobey. He looked back. Through the glass, he saw her standing at the core of the station, alone, glowing, perfect. And then, light. A final explosion of color, data, memory, a blast that echoed across systems, burning away the enemy fleet and sealing the gate for the last time. Weeks later, James drifted alone through a quiet starfield, the AI ship barely holding together. He had nothing left, except a soft sound, a hum. The bonding stone, which he thought was lost, floated beside him, whole again. It glowed, and a voice came through. Lyra's voice. "I'm gone, James, but I'm not lost. Part of me lives in the stars, and part of me lives in you. So live, love, protect the light, and never, ever regret what we had." James smiled through tears. "I don't." He had married an alien lady without seeing her face, and had no regrets. Not then. Not now. Not ever.